verse 2. So she sees that, it says, while it was dark and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb, and says, so she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved. Now, they believe that is actually John, the author of this gospel, is the one whom Jesus loved. And so the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, they have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. And so when you think about what's going on here, you have Mary, she's showing up, and really when you start bringing the other gospel accounts together, there's lots of details that we could color and fill in of, how other Mary was with her, and Clopas was with her. Some say that this Mary showed up twice, once on her own and once with the other women. So there's lots of discussion points on this. But what's interesting is she notices, instead of just believing, what does she do? She thinks that the body of Jesus has been stolen, has been taken. And isn't that just like us? Over and over and over again, Jesus was saying, guess what? I'm going to die, and on the third day, I'm going to rise again. But that's not what they were expecting. It's like it didn't take root. And sometimes belief comes in stages. It's like we can hear something over and over and over again, but it doesn't seem to take root. And I would ask, do you feel like the gospel has taken root in your life? Do you feel like your eyes have been opened to the difference that it can make to surrender your life to Jesus? Do you have a personal relationship with him? You've heard these type of messages, maybe Easter after Easter, but would you say you're feeling a little bit like Mary? You're looking for another theory to explain away the resurrection. For her, the theory at that moment was, you know what? Somebody came and they took his body, and we don't know where they placed him. Now, when you consider the book of Matthew's gospel in chapter 28, in verse 11 to 15, what you have there is the discussion that the body was said to be stolen by the skeptics. Like the skeptics said, the body of Jesus, if anybody is out saying that he's alive, just say that his body has been stolen. And that's one of the things they want to say. Well, let's take it on both sides. If you were a skeptic saying that the body of Jesus was stolen, right? But the moment the disciples were saying he's alive, what would the skeptics do? They would bring the body out and say, why are you disciples saying he's alive? He's not. We stole him, and here he is. Okay? So obviously that shoots that theory down, right? But then if you are the disciples and you stole the body, and the critics are claiming that, well, why in the world would you go and die a martyr's death if you stole Jesus' body and die a martyr's death saying he rose from the grave? Like these disciples could hardly follow him in his earthly ministry. They fled from him on the night he's betrayed, and now they're going to go and tell a lie that he rose from the grave so that they could be persecuted, beaten, and die? So you see what we're doing. These are the kinds of lines of evidence that skeptics bring up. What I'm dealing with is history here. Like, how do we deal with this event that changed the world? Do we believe it? And so this is the first theory of trying to explain the resurrection, and it's known as the stolen body theory. Well, what do you do with the fact that we never had a body to come to bear? Well, some say it was stolen. Mary thought it was misplaced, maybe taken. And so we keep reading together. And we read in verse 3, so Peter went out with the other disciple, and they were going toward the tomb. And both of them were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. So can't you just envision this in your head? It's like, it's frenzy. Mary runs, we don't know what's going on, where he's at. And then Peter and John, they bolt off, and you just see them sprinting, and it's like they're racing each other, right? And you kind of picture that Peter's not going to show up first. I don't know what it is about him. I just get the feeling that, Peter's going to be in second when it comes to running, because I just picture Peter, somebody's just, I just kind of picture him like in Dunkin' Donuts and in and out. And, you just picture Peter just like loving pleasure, man, and just going after it. But John, the one whom Jesus loved, He arrives at the tomb first, right? And so they're in a race. They're chasing after each other. And so what happens is John arrives at the tomb, but then it says both of them were running together. The other disciple outran Peter, reached the tomb first, verse 5. And stooping to look in, he saw the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. So John notices, right, that he looks into the tomb, right, and he sees these linen cloths. The tomb was rolled away, right? The stone that covered it is rolled away, which, by the way, is probably considered by scholars, it could have weighed between 2,000 and 4,000 pounds, 1 to 2 tons for this stone. And the stone's rolled away, and his linen cloths, his burial cloths, he would have been buried in burial clothing, right? And he was placed in this tomb. And so in the tomb, John stops and he looks. In classic Peter, what happens with Peter? Well, it says this. Then Simon Peter came following him, verse 6, went into the tomb, and he saw the linen cloths lying there, and the face cloth, which had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded up in a place by itself. Now, a couple thoughts. When you rip something off, you're typically in a hurry if you're going to steal something, right? So now let's just take this stolen body theory and try to think about it. If you're stealing the body of Jesus, why in the world would you unwrap him from his burial clothing? Number one, given how he was tortured and beaten, think about what a mess that would have been to do that. Like you'd want to handle him if you're stealing him in burial clothes, not in his flesh that's been totally opened up. So that's very significant when we think about that. So the fact that the stolen body theory would assume then that his body's ripped off, you don't steal and just take your time, go, hey, let's just unwrap him here. Now, you also have to know that this was a big deal in the ancient world, right? Under Claudius, it became a capital crime in the middle of the first century for grave robbery to take place because people were breaking open graves and stealing valuables. I mean, can you imagine? Hey, Joe, I was thinking, I saw Doug over there. He was put in the ground. I think he had that Rolex on, bro. What do you say we go dig him up later on tonight, Tales from the Crypt style, baby, right? And so that seems odd, but that kind of stuff was going on. And so they had that capital crime for doing such a thing. Now, again, when you steal something, you're in a hurry. You don't just take time and unwrap. And so I remember when I was in college playing baseball, and we were in San Diego, and we were playing University of California, San Diego. And I was out on the field stretching, getting ready for the game. And since our team was only an hour down the street, we all just kind of drove down there. And I was going to be staying in San Diego to party for the weekend back at that time. And I remember as I'm stretching, I look and I see my Volkswagen Scirocco. You guys remember the VW Scirocco? The Scirocco was the bomb, man. I had my VW Scirocco, right? VWs, Mini Coopers. Someday I'm going to have a mini bus, a 1973 mini bus, and G-Paw and whatever grandma wants to name herself, but G-Paw, we're going to take those grandkids around. I'm going to dress up with my Santa suit, decorate that little red VW bus, and look at lights together. But that's just an ADD moment for you, brought to you by Bobby Conway, your ADD-friendly pastor, modeling his mental health issues in the moment, but getting himself back on track, wondering which verse he's in while he's thinking about that, wondering what it was he was talking about, still needing Mama Denise to probably throw a prayer up right now for this blessed mug of mine as it's going into a serious state of degeneration. In all seriousness, what am I talking about right now? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so, you steal in a hurry. And these guys are taking my car out of the parking lot. And I watch them steal my car in front of my eyes. And one guy undoes the moonroof, and then he gives me the bird. Because I was looking like, what? And gives me the bird and then waves and just drives off with my car. And I thought, that took some chutzpah, right? That is some serious guts. Just That's what you call stealing a car in style, right? But here's what I want to say. Jesus rose from the grave in style. I mean, that is so cool, folks. You picture Jesus, right? And he's just like, departs with those clothes, right? I don't know if he had to do like this number right here, just unroll the stuff from him. Was that stuff going on? I'm not sure if that's how it all went down, but we do know that the linen cloths were taken off him. And, did I say that right? So those clothes came. Did I get it right? A little bit. I'm getting closer, right? Come on now. All right. And the linen cloth, what's so cool about that is it's like Jesus has taken his time, right? And then it says that his head cloth was folded and put off to the side. So can you just picture Jesus inside the tomb, right? It's like, I'm going to get out of here. Oh, death, where is your sting, right? And it's like, out of here. But before he goes out, it's like, here's the burial cloth. And then he folds his laundry, right? Mama would have been proud. And he takes that head cloth and he folds that bad boy. And you can just see him like, boom, oh, death, where is your sting? And he's like, let's roll, out of here, right? I love it. Rising from the dead in style. Yes.